Dark chosen ones, only you were born with these 7 insane superpowers. There is a reason you've always felt different, not in the soft, poetic way people talk about being unique, but in a deep, often disturbing way, like the world wasn't built with you in mind, like the rules never quite applied. You've probably wondered, why do I feel like I'm carrying something ancient, something powerful, something dangerous? That question alone is your first sign. You weren't just born to play a role in this world, you were born to bend its fabric. You are one of the dark chosen ones, not because you are evil, not because you are broken, but because you were given access to energies and truths that most people spend lifetimes avoiding. These 7 superpowers you carry aren't gifts in the romantic sense, they are burdens until you learn how to wield them. But once you do, you don't just walk between worlds, you reshape them. Let's get something straight. Darkness does not mean evil. That's a lie told to keep people tame. Darkness is mystery, depth, power. It's the unknown cave that holds your treasure and your terror. It's the part of you that can't be controlled or categorized. And if you've always felt like you're drawn toward both the light and the dark, if you've been both the healer and the destroyer, then you already know the truth. Not all chosen ones wear robes of white. Some of us came through the fire not to avoid the shadows, but to master them. And we were born with powers that don't play by the rules of typical spirituality.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first superpower is your ability to see the truth beneath the lie. You walk into a room and you know. You can feel when someone's words don't match their energy. You can sense when someone's smiling but hiding a war inside. You know when something's off, even if no one else can explain it. They call it paranoia. We call it spiritual radar. It's not just intuition, it's piercing vision, a kind of second sight that doesn't just read people, it exposes them. This is why people feel nervous around you. They sense they can't hide. And this gift? It makes you a threat in a world built on illusion. But that power is only the beginning. The second is your emotional transmutation. When you go through pain, you don't just collapse, you transform. You've probably lived through things that should have broken you, loss, betrayal, trauma, and somehow instead of becoming bitter, you became deeper, wiser, stronger. Why? Because your soul knows how to turn poison into medicine. You don't escape pain, you alchemize it. That's what terrifies the systems around you. You don't need external validation to rise. You use the very stones thrown at you to build your throne. And yes, it's exhausting, but it's also divine. Because you weren't made to be untouched. You were made to become through fire. And still, that's not the end of it. The third power is shadow empathy. You don't just feel what others feel, you feel what they hide. Their shame, their rage, their guilt. You connect with the parts of them they're too afraid to show anyone else. And that makes you dangerous in all the right ways, because you don't just offer love, you offer liberation. You give people permission to be real, to stop pretending, but it also means you attract brokenness. You become a magnet for those who want healing but don't want to do the work. And if you're not careful, their wounds can infect your field. That's why this power must be tempered with boundaries. You're a portal, not a dumping ground. You're a mirror, not a martyr. Now pause for a moment, really ask yourself, have I been protecting this power or hiding from it? Have I been using it to awaken others or letting it drown me? That's the razor's edge every Dharma chosen one must walk, because when your empathy runs that deep, when your soul is that open, you become susceptible to spiritual parasites, energies that feed off your light while pretending to worship it. This is where discernment becomes your shield. Not everyone who cries for help wants to be saved. Some just want to siphon your energy. Know the difference. The fourth power is your ability to manipulate energy at will. You may not know you're doing it, but you are. When you walk into a place, the atmosphere shifts. When you speak, people feel something rise or fall inside them. When you focus your attention, reality bends. This isn't metaphor, it's vibration. You're a frequency disruptor, a channel, a conduit for power that doesn't come from the mind, but from something far older. That's why technology sometimes glitches around you, why animals react to you, why people dream about you after one conversation. You don't touch the world, you imprint on it. But this power is wild until it's trained. You must practice stillness, focus, intention. The more aware you become, the more precise your impact grows. You can heal with a glance or destroy with a word. That's not drama. That's responsibility, and it's one you must carry with humility, or it will consume you. Power without heart is chaos, but power with purpose, that's revolution. The fifth and perhaps most misunderstood power is your relationship with darkness itself. You're not afraid of it. In fact, you feel at home in it. Not because you're broken, but because you remember. You've walked through lifetimes of shadow work. You've danced with demons not to serve them, but to understand them. This is why you don't flinch when others reveal their worst selves. You've already met your own. And because of that, your presence offers something no false light ever can. Safety. Not comfort, not coddling, but the fierce, liberating truth that says, even this can be loved. Even this can be transformed. So let me ask you something that might change your life. What if the parts of you that you've been taught to fear are actually your gifts? What if the reason you've felt out of place isn't because you're too dark, but because the world is too shallow for your depth? Think about that. Let it sink in. Because in the next part of this journey, we're diving even deeper. We're going to unlock the last two powers, the ones most people never talk about, the ones that will explain why you've always felt haunted, why you've always had one foot in this world and one in another, and why your presence alone is enough to change reality. Walking with the void, the final two powers that define a dark chosen one. There's a silence that follows you, a stillness that settles when you enter a space. Sometimes people mistake it for intimidation, sometimes awe. But you know it's something else entirely. It's not just you they're reacting to, it's what walks with you. Something ancient, something beyond language. And if you've ever felt like you carry an invisible weight, like there's a presence in your life that defies logic, you're not wrong. You were born walking with the void, not the emptiness the world fears, but the sacred stillness that precedes all creation. This is the sixth superpower of the dark chosen ones, the ability to commune with the unseen, to carry the void without being consumed by it. The void is not absence, it is potential. It is the place where form has yet to arise, where reality is still malleable, where time dissolves and truth reveals itself in its rawest form. Most people can't handle it. They fill the silence with noise, the stillness with distraction, the unknown with certainty. But you were born to listen, to stand at the edge of the abyss and not flinch, to feel the pull of the great mystery and not run away. That's why you've always been drawn to the things others avoid, the dark woods, the long nights, the questions that have no answers. You weren't looking for fear. You were following a soul memory, a recognition that there is something sacred in the shadows, something real. This power is not loud, it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't seek attention, but it changes everything. Because when you walk with the void, you carry with you the ability to rewrite reality. You can dissolve what no longer serves. You can release identities, attachments, illusions in seconds, not because you're detached, but because you're free. The void gives you that. It teaches you impermanence. It shows you that everything you thought was solid is actually smoke. And when you truly grasp that, you become dangerous in the most divine way. You can't be manipulated, you can't be owned, you can't be seduced by shiny illusions, because you've seen what's behind the curtain. You stood in the nothingness and found peace. But this gift comes with a cost. You will be misunderstood. People will project their fears onto you. They will sense your depth and call it darkness. They will feel your silence and call it cold. But that's because they don't understand the void. They don't know what it feels like to be emptied and still overflowing, to have no words and still speak volumes. So you must learn to hold this power with sacred neutrality. Don't try to explain yourself to those who haven't touched what you've touched. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. The void doesn't apologize, it simply is. And now, the final power, the one that changes everything, the seventh gift of the dark chosen ones, is the ability to resurrect, not just metaphorically, not just emotionally, literally, spiritually, energetically. You've died before, maybe not physically, but in every other way that matters. You've lost everything: identity, belief, hope, maybe even the will to live, and yet something inside you refused to stay dead, something impossible to name. It pulled you back, rewired you, rebuilt you from the inside out, and now you walk the earth as someone who's already risen, someone who's already been to the edge and returned with fire in their eyes. This resurrection power is your most sacred weapon, because it means you are not afraid of endings. You don't panic when something falls apart. You don't cling when the world shakes. You trust the collapse. You understand that death is not the opposite of life. It is the doorway to it. And because you've walked through your own inner death, you know how to guide others through theirs. You become a midwife for transformation, a bridge between the old and the new. You hold space for chaos because you've become order. But here's what no one tells you. Resurrection doesn't mean you won't fall again. It means you'll rise differently each time, stronger, softer, more precise, less attached, until eventually even the fear of death loses its grip on you. And when that happens, when you no longer fear death, failure, or rejection, you become limitless. You become a walking embodiment of divine evolution, constantly dying, constantly being reborn, constantly shedding layers that no longer serve. That's why your presence is so unsettling to some. They sense that you're not static, you're not fixed, you're becoming, and that makes you unpredictable, uncontainable, unstoppable. So let me ask you this: what if your greatest power isn't what you do, but what you survive, what you carry, what you remember when everyone else forgets? Because that's what makes a dark chosen one unstoppable. Not perfection, not purity, but resilience, willingness, depth. The ability to stand in the storm, eyes wide open, and say, "I am still here." In the next part, we will go even deeper. Now that you know what you carry, it's time to learn how to use it, how to activate these powers consciously, how to build a life not just on survival, but on mastery. Because having power is one thing, living in it, wielding it with clarity and purpose, that's a whole other level. Awaken the force within, how to activate and master your 7 dark superpowers. Now that you know what you carry, the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? Because truthfully, there are countless souls walking the earth with dormant gifts, unaware of the power sleeping inside them. They live small because they were never taught how to be vast. They live caged because no one ever handed them the key. But you've made it this far. You've heard the call, and that means the time for hiding is over. These powers you carry, the sight, the transmutation, the void walking and resurrection, they're not meant to decorate your inner world. They are instruments of transformation, tools of destiny, and unless you learn how to use them consciously, life will keep using you. The first step to mastery is awareness. You must begin to observe yourself like a sacred experiment. How does your energy affect a room when you walk in? What happens when you speak from your soul versus your mind? When you feel drained, who is around you? What thoughts were you thinking? What emotions were moving through you? Don't wait for someone else to validate your experience. Start journaling. Start tracking. Your life is giving you data every single day, but you have to pay attention. Mastery isn't about control, it's about intimacy with your own essence. The more you know yourself, the more precise your power becomes. But awareness without intention is just noise. So the second step is to get crystal clear about how you want to use your power. What are you here to create? Who are you here to become? These powers are not random. They are aligned with your soul contract, your mission, your unique blueprint. Are you here to be a healer, a guide, a creator, a destroyer of illusions? You don't need to choose just one, but you do need to choose a path. Direction gives your energy form. Without it, you're just a storm looking for something to destroy, but with it, you become a force of nature, strategic, focused, unstoppable. Let's talk about energetic hygiene, something most people ignore and all chosen ones must master. When you carry this level of energetic sensitivity, you must treat your aura like a temple. Cleansing isn't optional, it's survival. That means salt baths, that means grounding in nature, that means clearing rituals daily, especially after being around emotional chaos. Don't wait until you're drained to protect your energy, learn to fortify it. Wear symbolic jewelry, use oils, herbs, and sound frequencies. Speak protection prayers over your body when you wake. You're not being dramatic, you're being strategic. The unseen world is real, and if you don't guard your field, something else will enter it. Another key to power activation is silence. not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. Dark chosen ones carry so much inner noise, visions, downloads, ancestral memory, that it's easy to get overwhelmed. But silence is where you listen. It's where you receive. Make space for it. Sit in the dark. Close your eyes. Breathe. Feel every layer of yourself. Ask your soul, what do I need to know right now? And listen. You don't need to search for answers. They're already inside. But they won't scream, they whisper. And silence is the only way to hear them. Now, let's talk about emotional power. Remember, one of your gifts is emotional transmutation, but to master it, you have to stop running from your feelings. Every emotion you feel is energy. Anger is fuel. Grief is purification. Fear is information. When you feel something intensely, don't judge it, channel it. Move it through art, through sound, through dance, through breath. Let it speak. Let it rise. Then use it as a compass. What is it trying to show you? What truth have you been avoiding? Your emotions aren't obstacles, they are gateways. The intensity you carry is not a curse, it's your engine. The next layer is shadow integration. This is where most people stop, but not you. You go deeper. You bring the unconscious into the light. You meet the parts of yourself you've been taught to hate. The jealous part, the angry part, the manipulative part, and you say, I see you. I'm listening. You don't indulge them, but you don't exile them either. You integrate them. Because when your inner world is at war, your outer world will reflect that chaos. But when your inner world is in harmony, even with its darkness, you become untouchable, whole, solid, real. And then there is ritual. You must create sacred containers for your magic. Ritual is not about religion, it's about rhythm, repetition, intention. Light that candle, speak that affirmation, offer that prayer, mark the full moon, honor your ancestors, build altars, create spaces that reflect your inner truth. The more you ritualize your life, the more your subconscious begins to align with your conscious will. You're not just living, you're weaving. You're not just reacting, you're creating. Ritual is how you anchor the spiritual into the physical. Make it yours, make it sacred. And finally, community. You cannot do this alone. You weren't meant to. Power without mirrors becomes distortion. You need people who see you, who challenge you, who remind you of who you are when you forget. Not followers, allies, not fans, family. Find them, call them in. And if you haven't found them yet, be patient. Sometimes the universe isolates you first to refine your frequency before it connects you with the ones who truly match it. But they are out there, and when you find them, your power will multiply. So I ask you this. What would happen if you stopped waiting for permission and decided right now to live as the dark chosen one you already are? What would shift if you stopped hiding your power and started moving with full spiritual authority? That's not ego, that's embodiment. That's what this world needs. Not more theories, not more gurus, but embodied power, lived wisdom, real ones who've walked through hell and came back with heaven in their hands. In the final part, we'll go beyond the individual. We'll explore what it means to lead, to influence, to shape timelines with your presence. Because once your power is activated, the game changes. You no longer just survive, you initiate others. You become the architect of new reality. Becoming the catalyst, how to lead, influence and shape timelines as a dark chosen one. You've come this far for a reason. Not everyone makes it to this level of awareness. Most people stop when it gets uncomfortable, when the darkness rises, when the illusions fall away. But you, something inside you kept going. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was rage, maybe it was purpose disguised as suffering, but whatever it was, it kept you walking. And now, you're here, on the edge of something massive. Because once you've remembered your power, once you've activated it and begun to wield it with intention, there's one final truth to embrace. You are no longer just living inside this reality. You are shaping it. Let that sink in. You are not just a participant in this world. You're a timeline disruptor, a frequency transmitter. Every thought, every choice, every presence you bring into a space changes it. That's not spiritual fluff, that's quantum reality. You've become a living signal, and when you realize this, everything shifts. You become the cause, not the effect. You stop waiting for the world to change and start being the change. You don't chase influence, you become influence. Subtle, magnetic, undeniable. But here's what most people miss. Influence isn't about how many followers you have. It's about how deeply your energy penetrates. Think about this. Have you ever said something so real that someone cried? Have you ever walked into a room and the whole atmosphere shifted? Have you ever shared a truth that felt like it rewired someone's soul? That's real influence. It's energetic, it's spiritual, it's timeless. And you, as a dark chosen one, carry that. You don't need a stage, you are the stage. You don't need a spotlight, you are the light in the darkness. To lead at this level, you must first understand the sacred responsibility of your presence. Every conversation becomes an initiation. Every act of integrity becomes a ripple. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you anchor a new paradigm. People are watching you, not always with their eyes, but with their spirits. They feel your frequency, they sense your alignment, and whether they admit it or not, they're learning from you. That means your healing doesn't stop with you, it echoes. Your embodiment becomes a permission slip for others to rise. Your courage becomes a map. Your resilience becomes prophecy. But don't get it twisted. This kind of leadership is not about perfection. It's about authenticity. People don't follow perfect leaders. They follow real ones, raw ones. Leaders who've bled, who've broken, who've rebuilt themselves in silence. You weren't chosen because you're flawless. You were chosen because you're honest, because you're willing to stand in your truth even when your voice shakes, because you're willing to be misunderstood if it means being real. That's the kind of leader the new world needs, not idols, not influencers, initiators, catalysts, those who carry the frequency of transformation in their being, not just their words. And here's the wild part. Every timeline you intersect with becomes an opportunity. Every person you meet, every situation you face, every environment you enter, you are either reinforcing the old or anchoring the new. There is no neutral. You are always weaving, always affecting, always creating. So ask yourself, what timelines am I choosing with my energy? What futures am I activating with my presence? This is where mastery becomes legacy, where your life stops being about survival and starts being about contribution, not in a performative way, but in a soul-deep, ripple-tholic core, multidimensional kind of way. You begin to realize that you're not just connected to the collective, you are the collective. Every act of healing you do ripples out. Every shadow you integrate lightens the grid. Every truth you speak becomes a beam in the architecture of the new earth. You're not here to escape the matrix, you're here to recode it, to hack reality through frequency, to make the invisible visible, to make the impossible inevitable. You're not a glitch in the system, you're the architect of the next version. That's why protecting your energy, anchoring your truth, and living with intention isn't just for you, it's for the 10,000 silent witnesses who feel your vibration and remember something inside themselves. It's for the timelines you'll never see but will still affect. It's for the future generations who will walk through doors you opened without even knowing it. Because leadership on this level is it transcends space, it transcends time. It's not about what you do, it's about what you are. But with great power comes great resistance. The more light you carry, the more shadows you stir. People will project, they'll misunderstand, they'll test your boundaries. That's part of the path. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be true. And when you choose truth over approval, you anchor a new template. One that others can rise into. One that reshapes culture. One that breaks generational curses in real time. That's the work. It's not always glamorous, but it's always holy. Remember this, every time you choose to align with your highest self, you create a timeline where more people remember who they are. That's the butterfly effect of consciousness. That's the power of embodiment. And that's why you must keep going. Whether you're seen or unseen, whether you're praised or ignored, your energy is doing the work. Your soul is transmitting at all times. And somewhere, someone's awakening because of it. So I leave you with one final question. What if every moment of your life was a sacred broadcast, transmitting frequency codes to the collective? Would you still play small? Would you still dim your light? Would you still wait for permission to be powerful? Or would you rise into the leader you were always meant to be? You are the storm and the stillness, the fire and the forge, the void and the voice. You are not here to fit in. You are here to redefine, to initiate, to awaken. You are a dark chosen one, and the world is already shifting in your presence. Now go and shape the timeline.